Welcome to the episode. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Let's start by having you introduce yourself. What do you do, where you work, and how long you've been in HR?
Sure. So my name is Margie Huff-Shaffer. I've been in HR for over 28 years, a really long time. I currently am doing consulting work for HR startup companies. And so it's a new experience in the last 6 months. I've always worked in the corporate world, but really wanted to change. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
How exciting for you. And I did take a look at your LinkedIn, so I have some questions circled around that. So,
Sure.
You've held leadership roles across banking, healthcare, and construction. What first drew you to HR, and how has your path evolved from across those industries?
So I actually went to school to be a physical therapist. And I fell into HR. I realized when I was taking all of my PT classes that, gosh, I really can't do blood. You would think you would know that beforehand. But I fell into HR with a family member, an uncle who worked in banking. And he said, you should try this. You're, personable, so forth. I said, okay, great. And so I started as a HR assistant working the front desk and loved just meeting the people. And I actually was very fortunate because I had a phenomenal leader who really took me underneath her wing. And from there, I just grew with that specific bank. I was there for 10 years and just worked my way up from being a HR assistant receptionist. And then I moved into doing a little bit of payroll. And then I started moving into more of the recruiting aspect of it and really evolved into more of a HR generalist type role. While I was going to school full time, I also worked full time. I received my bachelor's in business, was specializing in HR, and then I went right in and got my master's in leadership. And then from there, I've taken additional certifications and have worked on, attending a school in Wisconsin for HR in the banking world, HR certificates from Creighton, so a bunch of different things. I made the switch from banking into more of an e-commerce. Loved it, but I went right directly into the recruiting world and really focused on the talent acquisition. And so I wasn't able to have my fingers in everything. So I was there for about 4 years or so and really decided that I missed the employees. And I was recruited away to go to a third-party administrator and help them grow and change their HR team. At that point in time, HR was evolving, and we were moving from more of that, paper pusher type, atmosphere to really being business partners and being strategic within the business and really helping employees. And so I was brought into this organization to help adjust and move that needle. So that was a good experience. I was able to do startups as well. So when I was there, they had about 25 employees. They were around for about 4 years, and they were ready for an HR team. And so with my previous experience working in healthcare as well, another startup that I worked at, I had, I think I was employee like number 4
Wow.
in this healthcare that started, think Whole Person Healthcare. And I developed the HR team and that whole entire department from nothing. And when I left, we had over 400 employees that I had hired, developed the whole HR team, put in the different functions. We did, I want to say, 6 or 7 different acquisitions as well. So a lot of great experience there. Again, 25 employees going in, no HR at all, and it was more fragmented, so they wanted to centralize it. They were unsure if they really needed it. And it was a great opportunity to go in and do that. And the first thing I did is kind of look to see, okay, what are we doing? right? And then how do we go about centralizing it, and what is HR's value proposition, right? What do we want HR to look like? And so I was able to develop that. I was there for nine years, I think. Was recruited away again into construction. And so that was a new industry for me. Leaving banking was really, really difficult because it felt like home. But I also knew that for my personality, I'm a learner. And so that means I like to continue to learn and develop myself. And knowing that my long-term goal was to go into consulting, I knew I needed to kind of diversify my background a little bit. So that's why I chose to take the opportunity at the construction company. And again, they really struggled with an HR team. They were already in 20 different states, and they had over 260 employees, and they really struggled with their leadership in the HR realm. And so I was brought on to really help them grow and develop. And I felt like I did that. I put a lot of processes in place, saved the company a lot of money from a technology perspective, put structure in place, and so it was a good learning experience to learn that industry. And then from there, I just had the opportunity to kind of go off on my own, and so that's what I'm doing now.
Well, that's exciting for you,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
And being a learner myself, it's the challenge of it, isn't it? So
it
that is
is.
amazing that you've made such an impact. And looking back, what was one turning point that confirmed HR was the right career for you?
Wow, that's a tough question. I just gravitate towards people. I've learned just from my past experiences that I like to work with people and I like to develop people. And one of the things that I'm super passionate about is employee relations. And it's not necessarily, terming people or terminating or, putting disciplinary. That's not what my focus is. My focus is on how do we remove the blocks to make people successful, and what are their strengths, and making sure that they're in their roles to be successful.
It's great when you can do what you love, isn't it? What's something then about your journey that would surprise people just getting to know HR as a profession?
So as a HR professional, a lot of people didn't know this about me, but getting in front of people to talk, like, it was terrifying.
Oh, you wouldn't know it now.
Right. You wouldn't know that but it took a lot of time to get to that piece of it. And there is a lot of, public speaking and talking to, doing trainings or whatever it might be, speaking engagements and being comfortable in front of people. And so I think that was a skill set that I was able to learn. And I think the other piece too, from an HR professional piece of it, looking back to when I started HR 28 years ago to now, we're going through another evolution with HR.
Probably seen many.
This one is probably one of the bigger ones, and it's because of AI and the technology, and then it's also about people's well-being and their mental health. And so these are some of the different trends that we're moving towards. And within HR, you have to be flexible. You have to be able to move with these trends. Otherwise, you're going to become obsolete, right? As people change, you have to change too.
So thinking about some challenges in your own professional growth, you've led major initiatives in your career, and you just shared a couple of those here. So which project challenged you the most, and what did you take away from it?
So I think, gosh, that's really tough, because anytime you go into an organization that does not have HR, the challenge is helping them understand what the value is, right? And how we are there to help support. So when I think about HR, it's about being an advocate for employees and helping them grow and wanting to stay with an organization, right? That engagement piece, to also protecting the company, right? And so you have to be able to balance those two different initiatives and help people understand what those initiatives are. And sometimes that can be challenging.
It's probably one of the biggest challenges, I think, as an HR professional. So what were some strategies that you've used that have helped you with
sitting down
balancing.
and listening to people, asking the right questions, and observing, what you've seen, and also taking your past experiences too. Hey, this has worked in the past. Now, moving into different organizations, right? Some things may work better than others, but it's also networking too. So it's bouncing off the different ideas with people. So I think again, I'm a relationship person. And so I like to get my work done through people, and that's by asking the questions and really understanding what's going on, not only from the root causes from maybe an employee issue, but also where is the company going to go in 3 to 5 years. So it's more of that strategic insight as well.
And I do have a question coming up on that. So, but looking at in leadership, you just shared a little bit. Some tough conversations come with the territory. Can you share a lesson that you've learned about navigating employee relations?
Yeah, so when dealing with employee relations, I have a bleeding heart. And so sometimes that's hard, right? When you know what's right for the organization, but then you have this humanistic approach and you know what's going on in that person's background or, in their family life because they come and talk to you about it. And then having to make that tough decision of, gosh, these are the facts. I have to be black and white with the facts, right? And not allow my bleeding heart to get into that piece of it. And that's challenging for a lot of HR professionals is being able to almost remove them or remove those emotions and just focus strictly on the facts. I think some of the biggest challenges I've had was doing like reduction in forces, large reduction in forces. And, I'll never forget the time where I had to lay an individual off who just had 3 small kids, and I had to walk her out to her car and help her carry her things, and she has 3 car seats in the back seat. And so just knowing the impact that you have on people's families, that's challenging, and you have to be able to, put those emotions aside and do what's best for their company. Now, as an HR professional, sometimes we don't take care of ourselves in those situations, and it's really important to figure out how to take care of yourself and deal with, that internal stress that you might not be showing.
Yes, I appreciate you sharing that because I imagine that is a very difficult position to be in, being able to balance the empathy with also being an effective leader in your role. So thank you for sharing that. What's one leadership skill then you continue to refine even now after almost 3 decades in HR?
I know, isn't that crazy? 3 decades, that's crazy. Refining, I think it is working in male-dominant industries, right?
Well,
And
it looks like you chose those.
I have. And as being a female is earning that respect and in those industries. And I mean, I've experienced many different situations where I might be leading something and the gentleman may not look at me, right? They're looking at a partner who's my direct report or whatever it might be. And so I think it's always constantly redefining that. And what I've learned is, you come prepared to those discussions. You are professional, right? You take ownership when you need to take ownership. And eventually that respect comes around.
Certainly, I think women in any leadership role, there's a certain presence that you need to have. But I do like that you also had stated, coming prepared, really knowing what you're talking about and being able to talk about it in a way that if somebody isn't paying the attention, hopefully the message is being heard.
And I think it's also about understanding who your audience is. Right? So know who you're speaking to and what type of information they like. So if you have somebody that's an analytical thinker, you want to bring the numbers. You want to bring the data, right?
All the research.
All the research and where you got it from and so forth. If you're somebody that is more, speaking to someone that's more of a structured, right? You're going to want to say, okay, these are the steps that we need to take to solve this. So it's about really understanding who your audience is, and that's all built, again, about having those individual conversations as you're getting to know your team, and just, again, preparing.
And paying attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And so moving on, what do you think organizations often underestimate then about HR's role in driving business strategy?
Yeah, so I think sometimes, and I've noticed it in this last year or so, that a challenge is because sometimes HR is viewed as not a revenue-driven department.
Mm-hmm.
And it's helping them understand the value that we do bring. And again, it's about supporting their biggest asset, which is people, and helping them understand that aspect of it and helping them, curve benefit expenses, putting in technology to be more efficient with processes and procedures, keeping them out of, legal risks, things like that. And so I think it's helping them understand what the whole gamut of HR is versus just another department.
Sure. And I think that that's a perspective that is part of the culture. Mm-hmm. But I do also think that sometimes people see HR as you have said, they're just kind of on the side. They take care of all the paperwork. Whereas organizationally, it's really about providing the resources to help your people do their work.
So I view, whenever I have led HR teams, we're like that internal consultant. Mm-hmm. We're an internal business consultant that specializes in people. And so we are there to provide value to whether it be employees or to managers. They're our customers, right? And we are there to provide that value, support, remove roadblocks when we can, and have those challenging, tough conversations to make sure that the company is operating with integrity, they have their ethics in place, culture, the whole 9 yards.
And that can be tough. Those are tough conversations
yes,
sometimes.
they are.
Yeah. So as someone who's built and led HR teams, what qualities do you look for in rising HR professionals?
So I think it's about people who are willing to put in the work, right? It's not an 8-to-5 job. It will never be an 8-to-5 job Monday through Friday.
I don't think there's many of those jobs around anymore.
It's somebody that is willing to put the work in, who really gets people and understands people, so not only are they self-aware of themselves, but they also are aware of their environment and how people are reacting as well. So a high level of an emotional intelligence is in there. And of course, being, smart too, right? They have that intelligence piece of it and can pick things up, because in the world of HR, you could be moving 100 miles an hour and then you're literally stopping on the dime and turning around and going back the opposite direction because there might be a compliance change, something along those lines. And so it's always being agile and being able to move with what's happening within not only the environment, but the economy, compliance, regulatory, whatever it might be, and being able to apply that and making sure that the organization that you're supporting or the employees that you're supporting all are in line.
Yeah. And thinking about the place that we met, actually, you've served as the co-chair of membership for HRAM, Human Resource Association of the Midlands. How has your involvement with a professional association really shaped your own career?
So I've been a member of HRAM since I started in HR.
Since it started.
Since it started, right? A long time. And it's always been a really good tool for networking and to bouncing off ideas. So when you go into organizations and you're a party of one, right? A department of one.
Which is so common.
It's very common in smaller organizations. May not have anybody to talk to within the company, right? Because there's levels of confidentiality that you need to adhere to. And so sometimes it's good just to have that phone that you can just pick up a network, or go to a meeting and talk to somebody and just say, hey, I have this situation, high level. What are your thoughts? This is what I'm thinking. Am I on the right track? Am I not on the right track? Whatever it might be. Or, we have the new sick leave that's happening
Yeah.
in Nebraska.
Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's challenging, because we have organizations that have PTO allocations. You have some, and so PTO includes mental health days and sick time, right? So how do you break that apart? You have some organizations that have unlimited, time, and they don't even track it. So, but now how do you incorporate the sick time into that? And so there's a lot of discussions around what our best practices. It's interesting, but it's being able to use your network. And I built a couple groups, even like in the banking world. I built an HR Omaha group because a lot of the banks have a department of one or very small HR team, and so we would come together on a quarterly basis and talk about HR things and support each other. And then we were always a phone call away or an email away. And those are the types of relationships and networking that are just vital. I mean, they're so critical in when you're working in any organization.
I like that you say that because it's like building an advisory council.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, that's not necessarily your own inside this organization, because I think having that perspective outside of your organization, like you said, you could identify best practices, but you could also find somebody who may already have experience with your situation. So
Right, and so I'm involved in a couple different groups. So not only HRAM, which is probably the largest group, but also SHRM, which is more on the national level. And then I'm also a part of a HERO group. And that is more with very high-level HR leaders, so CHROs, VPs of HR, senior VPs, things like that. And we talk strategic. So what are the trends within HR? What are we seeing, within HR? And not necessarily getting down in the weeds, but helping prepare from a strategic perspective.
somewhat future focused then. Yeah.
Correct.
I love that you have such a diverse group of individuals that you can lean on for all of those different areas. And I like the way your mind sees that. So.
Yeah, and it's also, it's nice too because again, it's about taking care of yourself too. So your own mental wellness. Your HR peers, your colleagues, they get what you're going through.
Yeah.
And being able to, chat about the different things that you might be experiencing. So,
And networking, by the way, can feel really intimidating, especially for people who are new into a profession, or even just my students who are just exploring work, the world of work. What's one strategy that you've used to build meaningful, lasting connections?
So I think one, it's, getting over the fear of just talking to an individual, right? That's a stranger. And, you're anxious, they're anxious, everybody's anxious. Yeah. It just kind of goes around. Yeah. So it's just, just taking that first step, introducing yourself and just, doing some small talk of trying to find a connection, right? What do you have in common? Maybe it's asking a question about, hey, what are your thoughts about this? Or where do you work? What do you do? And it's just building that personal connection with them. I always would follow up with, here's my card or here's my LinkedIn, right? And then follow up with a note, maybe a day or two later. Hey, it was so great to meet with you. I'd love to continue discussions, and set up a coffee date for networking. And so it's you're taking that ownership to start building those different connections. Conferences are also a good place. Sometimes they can be overwhelming in a lot of people. But even if you just get one connection, that's amazing. I was just in the Denver area for the Work Human conference, and I was standing in line to get a water bottle, and I turned around, and there was a lady that I met there, and she's from Omaha.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, right? And so we met for coffee.
So nice to find somebody.
Yeah, and she was in consulting and things like that. So it was just like we were meant to connect.
And that's always an amazing feeling when you have that. I will say when I met you, I would say what you did for me was, I think you just talked about it. I'm involved in all these different groups. You invited me to serve on a group.
Yes.
So I was like, I thought maybe you'd come up with that strategy.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think that's a great way also is to invite people to get involved. And then also part of networking is providing service to somebody.
Right.
So you don't want to necessarily look at the opportunity like, what can I get from this, but what can I give?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, serving's a great, and I think that's just part of talking and get to know that person and understanding what their aspirations are. And,
Yeah.
hey, you should come join Haram, or you should come and do whatever.
Great. So moving on. Now you've been talking about your consulting work. So you said it has such an impact in HR. Can you tell us about your consulting work and what excites you the most about it?
So I'm actually working with a commercial construction organization. And it's exciting because they've been in business for 1.5 years.
Wow.
So it's
New.
brand new. We have 10 employees. And I am getting my hands in the operations of the business because I see the value from the business, the strategic brain that I have, plus helping them align with the people side of it. And so it's super interesting because, again, there's that learner coming out, right? Getting my hands in some of these other things, but it's helping me understand the business as a whole so I can make sure I'm putting in the correct programs.
What I'd like to talk about next is just really some hot topics in HR. So we're going to wrap up our conversation and just getting your perspective on some of the current discussions. And you already brought one up. So AI.
Yeah, AI is huge, and the automation in HR.
Yeah. So beyond hiring, what's one way that you see AI improving the day-to-day work in HR?
So anything from onboarding employees, performance management, using the chat bots, right? I see that being more of writing policies and procedures, but then helping with the analytical side of it, right? And then just streamlining overall employee support. So I think there's a lot of potential in the AI world, especially in the HR. There have been, discussions that AI is going to take over and
Take our jobs.
Yeah, right. We don't need people, and AI is not going to have that empathy, right, towards a person. It's not going to have that humanistic piece of it, and so it's going to be able to share all the data. But what about that other side of it, right? When you're dealing with people, you have to bring that other piece into it as well. The emotional side.
Yeah, so I'm sure what you're saying then is AI can't fully take over, but it could maybe take off some of those day-to-day tasks or sometimes those responsibilities that may not necessarily be something that it brings the most value to the employee relationship.
Correct. Yeah. So that's where HR is evolving even more so.
Yeah. How are you looking at it from a consulting standpoint? Is that something that you've explored yet, or?
So just recently getting into it. I've playing around with the different AI systems.
We've all been in the sandbox with it. Yeah.
I've seen a huge impact on the recruiting world, where they've always used keywords to screen resumes, but it's even more so now. So I think that's even a bigger. But also on the other side of it is they're kicking out really good candidates, really a lot of talent because it may not have the right keyword there. So those are the things that you still are going to need a person to go back and look through stuff, in my opinion, so you're not missing some of that talent. And one of the other big trends in HR is that there's a shortage of skilled people, right? And so looking at, do we just look at the internal workforce and build that skill upward? Do we look outside of that, right? And build, and there's also a shift moving from people are wanting more experience now, whereas before it was degrees, right? Yeah, that's still important because I feel like that shows initiative and work ethic and so forth. But now we're really migrating over to skill set. I mean, I can teach a person how to, fill out an I-9, to do some of that tactical work. I can't teach a person how to be nice. So I think that those soft skills are so, so important.
They always come back around. Yeah.
They do.
They do. And I think more like what you're talking about, more of this transactional side of AI, it's going to be even more important for people to be able to connect and really showcase some of those critical thinking, problem solving, seeing beyond that transactional side of it. Yeah.
Right.
So in thinking about employee growth, what role should HR play then in helping employees see clear career pathways as well as development opportunities?
Absolutely. So I think that HR is one piece of it. And I think it's about us sitting down, or when I say us, I mean HR world, sitting down with employees and really understanding what their strengths are and what they want to do. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with employees, and I call them frequent appliers, right?
Oh, okay.
So they apply, or applicants. They apply to every single role in a company, and it's like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Get a job.
They
Sounds
want
like.
they just want a job. They want to
Yeah.
get out of the place that they're at now, but they
Yes.
have no idea where they want to go. And so it's when I see that happening, I actually will have a discussion. If it's an internal employee, I'll have a discussion with them and say, okay, I see that you applied for A, B, C, D job. They're all different jobs. And start having those conversations and really pinpoint it down. And then from there, it's about, okay, this is where your path is. You want to go job B. These are the things that you need to do to get to job B. Right? Maybe it's somebody who wants to be an individual contributor. Maybe you want to be in leadership. Maybe you want to manage people. These are the things that you need to be aware of when you manage people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're two different avenues and two different paths that people can go on.
And I like that you're talking about that because we see that from the education standpoint. So some students will come in and enroll in a program because they think that, oh, yeah, that's kind of an area I want to learn more about or I'm curious about. And then they do a lot of, the coursework, they complete the degree, and then they get into the work world and they're like, this isn't necessarily what I thought it was.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So I love that career advising beyond the education, but also in the employment area. That's great. So thinking about the future of HR leadership, what's one skill you believe tomorrow's leaders will absolutely need to be successful?
I think that in order for an HR leader to be successful moving forward is really, truly understanding the strategic plan of an organization and the different analytics that play into that from a people perspective. And it's digging into those different analytics. So employee engagement, why do we have that score? And then digging into what is the root cause, right? Or maybe it's turnover, because we have that shortage in talent, and digging into those root causes, but also keeping a high level from a strategic vision. HR, like I said, is evolving, so we're moving away, and we have AI to be able to do that tactical work. It's the other work that we do that kind of gets missed sometimes, that I feel that we're starting to move into. And again, it's being able to foresee, I guess you could say, and using the analytics to forecast.
Yeah.
Using predictive indexes as well. So.
I think what you're saying, too, is part of that, too, is having a seat at the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, having all that data and understanding it and how it applies within the organization is good. But also, I think having the relationship and the connection to get to the table.
Right. And being able to communicate it in a way that's meaningful to your audience.
Circled back around to that, didn't we? I like that. Okay. Well, this has been such an insightful conversation. I want to thank you for sharing your journey as well as your leadership perspective. For the listeners, what is one thing that you would want them to take away from your career experience?
Find your passion. Find what you love and make that your career.
I like that. Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.